We're doing a quick AMA today. My name's Macken. I'm a human mating researcher, and you guys sent me a lot of questions through my broadcast channel, and I'm going to try to hit as many of them as I can, at least the ones I'm interested in. So one that got a lot of interest was one from Jasmine, who said, "Why can women feel no attraction towards a man that ticks all boxes?" To me, this is kind of like asking, why does this healthy food not taste good, right? Something feeling good and being good for you, let's say, aren't necessarily the same thing, right? Like there's a gap between what we say we want, what we want in our most reflective moods, what we want on paper, and what we actually crave in practice. And in the case of attractiveness, in the case of relationships, I would say that it's most likely a physical attractiveness problem, let's say. So if you ask someone on a survey what they want in a partner, they're going to tell you that they want someone honest, they want someone loyal, they want someone kind. But if you see what they do in a speed dating study or on a dating app, or even in a vignette study, right, where it's kind of a different type of survey where you say, hey, which of these guys is the most attractive? And they've got photos, and then they've got biographies. You generally see that there seems to be kind of a threshold effect for attractiveness where a guy needs to be a certain level of attractiveness before other things start to matter. And in other methodologies, such as speed dating methodology, you'll generally see that physical attractiveness is the most important thing. And I would say that across short-term and initial mating contexts, physical attractiveness is the most important thing, right? I think it's only until much later, after you get to know somebody, that other traits start to come online as decisive factors. And there's some evidence for that as well. So why don't I like this guy who ticks all the boxes, right? He has all the things that I want on paper. He matches my stated preferences. Why don't I want him? I would say it's probably a physical thing, right? He probably doesn't look good enough, frankly. And other women ask similar questions. And again, I'm speculating here. Maybe it's not about looks. Maybe it's some unseen personal characteristic, but looks is certainly the only thing that I'm aware there's evidence for. Sabina asks, how do I make myself feel attracted to nice men? Again, I would say if the nice guy looked like Brad Pitt, it probably wouldn't be an issue, right? Paulina asks, why can a man be good, but a woman can still not be attracted to him? And it's like, look, goodness is not necessarily what causes someone to feel attraction. Again, it goes back to that analogy. It's like, this food is healthy, but that doesn't mean that it would taste good, right? And I don't think you can, trick yourself into making healthy food taste good, or trick yourself into making it, an unattractive but kind man sexy, right? I think that it kind of either happens or it doesn't, and it's really in your court whether you choose to, let's say, eat the healthy food that doesn't taste particularly good, or wait until you find, a healthy food that also tastes good. And many people do find that. I think it's probably the norm to find people who are, attractive and good for us, but maybe I'm being overly optimistic. Anyway, next question. Frisch asks, are you a silly little guy in real life? IRL. Yes. Harsh asks, how innate is aggression in males towards either sex? I would say it's almost as innate as in other animals. Humans aren't a particularly aggressive species, believe it or not. I spoke to Dr. Richard Wrangham from Harvard for a couple hours about that, and learned a lot about it. But I would say that we're a not super aggressive animal, but it is a part of our repertoire to exhibit aggressive behaviors, and not so much reactive behaviors, but more, cold, deliberate, aggressive behaviors. I would say that's very much part of human nature. Okay. Sonia wanted me to talk about age gaps, specifically the trend of younger men dating older women. I mean, reverse age gaps are definitely more common than they were 50 years ago, and age gaps in general have gotten a lot. And I say reverse age gap. That's kind of, relying on the stereotypical type of age gap where the man is older, but they sometimes are called reverse age gaps, so I'll stick to that terminology. Reverse age gaps are getting more common, and age gaps in general are getting much smaller. I would say that this has something to do with women's economic activity, most likely, right? So an older man is probably more attractive because he has more resources. And if women have their own resources, they can afford to date men in their own age bracket or younger than them. And that's what's happened over the past century is women have gotten more resources relative to their ancestors. And so they've also, along the same lines, dated younger. That's just my hypothesis. There could be other things at work, and there probably are. But I'd also say that it's a positive thing overall. I mean, as far as I'm aware, the data on age gaps show that the smaller an age gap you have, the more likely your relationship is to be successful, right? At least if you define success as, getting married and having a long marriage, age gaps seem to be negative towards that. And the effect seems to start with gaps as small as 2 years. So dating someone your own age is definitely a good idea. And small age gaps probably aren't a big deal, but bigger ones probably aren't strategically prudent. So Denise asks why women find men with feminine attributes more attractive. Well, I wouldn't say that they find men with feminine attributes overall more attractive. I actually disagree with that. There's some evidence that facial femininity is attractive to women, right? Women like pretty boys. I don't think that's particularly surprising to people. But bodily masculinity seems to be very attractive to women. Women generally like men with broad shoulders, relatively big muscles, relatively narrow waists, right? Narrow hips, broad chests, etc. That kind of Dorito shape. So I wouldn't say that it's across the board femininity or masculinity is attractive. There seems to be some mix of it that's attractive. And there's even some research on beards, ironically, that shows that a mix is most attractive, right? So, big beard, feminine face looks good. Masculine face, no beard looks good. That's from a conversation with Barnaby Dixon, so I'll have to circle back on that. But insofar as, answering why that is, the short answer to this question would be to cite the masculinity trade-off hypothesis. This is the most stereotypical answer I could give. It has some problems, but the basic summary I think is correct, which is that strategically as a woman, it doesn't necessarily make sense to max out on masculinity, because while masculine men might be better able to protect you from danger, they're also more likely to be a danger to you. And so women strategically, probably their preferences evolved to go for kind of a balancing thing, a Goldilocks zone, not too masculine, not too feminine, or a mix of both traits. That I would say seems to be the case. Although there are some traits such as, body shape, where masculinity seems to be almost universally a good thing. Women generally prefer men who have very masculine bodies again. Samira asks, what's more important to men about women, facial features or weight? This is a difficult question. I'm not aware of any literature that compares the importance of facial features versus weight, but I guess I'll just say that the importance of weight varies based on socio-ecological context. So there are some contexts where men prefer much lighter women, where men prefer much heavier women, and I've spoken about that in the past. I'll actually just link a video and move on. Sophia asks, why do humans conceal mating? Is it about morality? It's an interesting question, and it's one that I don't necessarily know the answer to. I would say that the normal answer you'll get is that it's to reduce jealousy, either for the benefit of the group or for the benefit of individuals, right? It's kind of a form of mate guarding. You don't want to mate with them in public because you don't want, other people to see your mate, right? That's if you're a man or a woman, you don't really want to have everyone see your mate in that position. And so we've kind of evolved this privacy. And the reason I say evolved, as opposed to it being, a social construct, is that there's no society that I know of where mating is completely unconcealed as a norm, right? We do seem to have a natural shyness about us, a natural prudishness when it comes to mating in public, at least compared to other animals. And this is something that's very rare in the animal kingdom. So I've heard the reduced jealousy theory, and then there's also kind of an increased cooperation theory, right? That it somehow makes alloparenting and working together better for everyone to keep their sexual activity on the low. But again, neither of those answers are completely convincing to me. I think it's an area that needs more research, but I don't think that it's about morality per se. And given that we see it across societies and cultures, I also don't think it's a social construct. I don't think our human ancestors were mating out in the open. I would like to get back to work now, but it was really fun to go through some of these questions. I hope everyone listening enjoyed at home. And if you want me to do more of these, you can tell me in the comments, or you can just submit questions on the Instagram broadcast channel. And if I get good ones, I'll answer more.